Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. My name is Makrom. I'm a registered nurse from Johnson City, Tennessee. For those of you who don't know, as some of you do know, I will be running in the 22 race for Republican nominee for congressional representative representing Tennessee's first congressional district, which is made up of counties in Northeast Tennessee. In case you're not sure which district you're in, that includes all of Carter, Cock, Green, Hamlin, Hancock, Hawkins, Johnson, Sullivan, and Unicoi, as well as Washington counties. Also includes parts of Jefferson and Sevier County. Again, for those of you who don't know me, which I assume is most of you, my name is Ahmed Matthew Makrom. Matt Makrom is it's good for me. I'll be turning 30 this week. Happy birthday! Happy birthday for me. Um, uh, so I grew up in Jefferson City, Tennessee, which is a small rural town in Jefferson County, Tennessee. My mother, who's one of the most wonderful and kind people you'll ever meet, she was a military brat and mostly grew up in San Diego. They lived in Japan for a while, but mostly San Diego, California. She's a beautician. She runs a small florist back home in Jefferson City. My father, who's deceased, he was a immigrant from Egypt. He immigrated to the United States in the 80s and met my mom when she was living up in New Jersey. So they got married. They had me and moved to East Tennessee along with my grandparents, where my grandpa had some roots back here. So anyway, my parents split up when I was a baby, and them being split up is all I ever knew. So uh, my mother raised me with the help of my fantastic grandparents, both of whom were now deceased. Also, my grandmother Irene, who we call Meme, and my grandpa Sanford, who we call Pop. Both of them are fantastic people. Anyway, I grew up on the top of a mountain in the woods in Jefferson County, and the country life is all I ever really experienced. I got to go to Knoxville every once in a while, and went on a school trip to New York City in high school. But anyway, moving to Johnson City was a massive change for me when I moved here in 2014 after graduating from Carson Newman College, now Carson Newman University. Right, sounds cooler. With a bachelor's degree in nursing. Right, so I started working as a nurse in Johnson City Medical Center in 2014 as a new grad. Working on a really busy neurology stroke floor at the med center here. Gradually worked my way up to shift leader over a couple years, learning and getting to know some of the best people that I've ever met. Fantastic people. Anyway, so I transitioned to a float pool position, working at various hospitals and units, local hospitals, and including Unicoi and Carter County. I did spend a day orienting in a facility in Mountain City in Johnson County, but they actually never ended up needing me up there. So you're still on the list, Mountain City, but I never ended up having to go back. So after about a year doing that, got a position in Sevier County working as an ER nurse at LeComte Medical Center, which was it's on the other side of home where I'm from. So my family lived there, and and my grandpa had begun to deteriorate in health, so I was able to be close in case anything happened to him, and spend time with my mom and my grandma, since Severe was on the other side of Jefferson City. So after about a year and a half of doing that, I enrolled in grad school. Started pursuing my master's degree in nurse practitioner certification. So I left that facility, and I went to the work in the local emergency room in Jefferson City. Still having a house here in Johnson City, so I commute, and I was still enrolled in school, where I worked there for a year until my grandpa actually passed away. After that, around that time, I was able to get on at the Veterans Hospital or the VA here in Johnson City, where I had been applying for years and had 5 interviews without success until one day I apparently made the cut. So anyway, I started working over here, and then the pandemic hit. So in January last year, I had to, I withdrew from classes because it was almost impossible to get clinical hours. So since then, I've picked back up classes. I'm almost done with the first semester now. I should be graduating in summer 2020 with my master's in nursing. Anyway, I tell you all that. I'm just trying to give you guys a background about myself. I've had a lot of problems in my past. Trying to figure out who I was and what I was supposed to do, as all of us have. Um, I was probably one of the most annoying liberals back in high school and college. You probably ask some of my friends. um, I was a staunch Obama supporter. I love to start arguments with Republicans and just do the argument ad hominem. Attacking the individual just based on oh, you're a Republican, you already had money, blah blah blah. Because I didn't come from money. Stuff like that. It's just their typical tactics. I wasn't aware of what I was doing back then. But anyway, thank you to all those friends who've maintained the friendships and overlooked those tendencies and held not those relationships with me. So anyway, after working in the ED for a while, I was able to actually see how inefficient the welfare system was, especially when I was an employee taking care of people at the worst points in their life. You know, as employees, I couldn't afford to even come into the ER if something was happening. I remember specifically having a anaphylactic reaction to cantaloupe, and I sat in the parking lot. I had my mom take me to the ER, and I sat there in the parking lot with my face just poofed up. And I was like, well, as long as my airway's clear, I can be okay. I don't have to go in because I don't want to pay for it, right? So anyway, I ended up going in. It was a big old bill that I didn't want to have to pay. But anyway, a lot of people come in and they take it for granted to the ER. They don't have to pay for it. They come in for stuffy nose. They'll bring 5 kids in. They all be checked in for nothing really. But I mean, each one of those is a patient. And we have to see them because it's emergency. So anyway, after coming to the VA, I was luckily surrounded with some conservative voices, and gradually I began to unravel the lies that I had been led to believe in my previous years. And I like to point out the starting point is the Brett Kavanaugh hearing. Whenever I finally started paying attention to what was going on, I kept hearing about this story. Brett Kavanaugh sexually assaulted this lady, blah 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 blah. Over and over. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna start paying attention. And when I started watching the court case, I was like, this doesn't line up with what they're saying on the news every day, all day. So after doing some digging, I started to realize that, hey, man, they haven't been telling us the truth. And the more and more that you start to dig, the more and more you start to realize that the left has been lying to everybody. Okay, they don't care about you; they care about power. And I'd love to have a conversation with anyone about that. We could talk all day about it. So unless you're not willing to change your opinions, then it's probably you know not a conversation. I mean, that wouldn't be a conversation we should have then. But anyway, you've all seen people who've been red pilled, so my story's much of the same. It's just something happens and then opens your eyes to what actually has been going on. So the story for me. So anyway, a couple other things about my past. My mother, she never received child support. I got free lunches whenever I was a kid. We didn't have a lot of money. I never inherited a dime from anybody. My Actually, you get written out of the will if you're not Muslim. At least as far as I'm aware, according to tradition. So I didn't inherit anything from my father when he passed. I went to a rural school. In high school, we had 2,500 kids at least in my high school. I don't know of any other that were Middle Eastern. We had a few black kids, um, probably a few Hispanics, but mostly white. I never thought never thought of myself as oppressed either. So I was also real inactive and obese as a kid too. I had asthma. I never did any sport or anything until I got older. So um, again, I don't see that as being oppressed. I just I didn't get to do a whole lot of things. But anyway, so my father wasn't ever really around. And my mom and my grandparents were great, but I never really got to learn what it was to be a man, uh, from my father. So long story short, it took through my 20s to my late 20s to figure out how to be a man and the responsibility and the values and the morals it takes to be a successful man. And, I've burned a lot of bridges on the way, made a lot of friends, and probably made some enemies too, but I've learned a whole lot, and that's what's important, is to take what you've experienced and apply it, because otherwise you're just repeating the same thing over and over. And also too, it took me until my 20s to discover what a relationship with God really was, and I was able to meet some really fantastic people in the last few years that really showed me what I had been missing out on. Though I considered myself as a Christian, as many people do prior to that, I had never really read the Bible, let alone understood the concept of Jesus Christ, or salvation, or any real relationship between people and God, how it works, and that living relationship, and that's an important focus in my life now. And I'm really happy to, been able, given the opportunity to experience those things. Um, so hopefully that wasn't too much stuff to go through. It might have seemed off the wall, scattered all over the place. But I was just trying to give you guys. I don't think anyone had any real starting point to where I come from or who I am. I mean, other than unless you know me, because then you probably know a whole lot about me. um, but you'll be learning a whole lot more about me and my story in the future. And I hope, I hope that gives you guys a decent starting point to who I am and where I'm coming from. So anyway, I'll be doing some short videos and interviews with interesting people in the upcoming weeks, and I'll be working with my buddy Daniel McCray, and we'll be doing a new video podcast together called the McMak Show. We'll have lots of new equipment. We'll have a producer. We'll have a dedicated location. Where we'll be talking about the local city, county issues, in our district, as well as Tennessee issues and national issues. And we'll be having special guests on there on a frequent basis, having the conversations that most people aren't willing to have. Confront the problems that our nation is facing today, especially with the cancel culture, the political correctness police going on, and constitutional crisis. First Amendment, Second Amendment. And so anyway, I hope that you'll subscribe to my YouTube. We'll probably be putting more content on the McMak Show, more specifically. But I'm gonna try to knock out a bunch of videos, so again, you guys get to know me personally. And I'll talk about some things that I think are important to myself, important to you as an American, important to you as a Tennessean, important to you as a human, especially with all this stuff going on. I mean, come on, guys, we gotta get it together. So anyway, check me out on YouTube. Check me out on the campaign website. The website is www.mattforcongress.vote. That's mattforcongress.vote, not .com. I think mattforcongress.com probably takes you to Matt Gaetz' website, and he's got some heat going on right now, so we don't want to get involved in that. So don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter on there. Just put your email address in, and you'll get updates from me or the team. And I'll post a link to the McMak show as soon as we get that up and running. I'll put that on YouTube and on the website. And thank you to everyone who's been voicing their support to me personally, because of I'm doing this simultaneously with doing school clinicals and working full time. Um, so bear with me. There's going to be some hurdles that we have to go through. This isn't professional. I'm funding most of this out of my pocket. Well, all of it out of my own pocket. Hopefully we get some other people on board at some point, but I'm not going to be beholden to anyone. So, um, I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to talk about the things I want to talk about. I'm not going to owe anybody for anything. So if you want to get in on the action, shoot me an email. You can contact me directly at mattforcongress.vote. You can contact the team at contact@mattforcongress.vote. But anyway, so guys, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you did, spread the word. I'm going to fight for what's right for you and what is right for America. And it's not going to be based on my opinion. It's going to be based on what our founding fathers put out for us as a direction for this country. It's going to be based on what the Bible says. I know probably some people don't like to hear that, but there's not really a whole lot of bad stuff in the Bible that we're told to do if you take the time to actually read it. So again, fighting for life and liberty, in your American rights. And me personally, I'm willing to sacrifice whatever is necessary to defend those amazing and wonderful rights that you have as an American. For this amazing and wonderful country that we're all blessed to inherit. So if you feel the same way, I'd love to get in touch with you. I'd love to talk. Anyone wants to shoot me a message on LinkedIn or, the email. I'd love to do interviews, whatever you guys have for me. If there's someone you want me to talk to, contact them, contact me. We'll set something up on one of my off days. And again, thank you guys so much for your time. And I hope everyone's well. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. We're going to keep fighting the fight, guys. Stay strong. Thank you.